Hi, this is Mike Alford from Z3 Controls, and I'm going to be talking about how to set up and initialize the NetMeter. The objective of this presentation is to teach you how to set up the NetMeter on a simple network and establish communication through a web browser. Then, to configure the NetMeter so that it is set up properly to be able to record energy data. Anyone who has basic networking experience should be able to understand this presentation. For example, if you've set up a simple home network, then you know just about everything you need to benefit from this presentation. We are first going to start by setting up a simple network. At this point, the NetMeter should not be connected to any lethal voltages. To do this, we're going to use a UL or CSA approved wall wart power supply. You can get this type of power supply at DigiKey or Radio Shack. Alternately, you may have something lying around that you can use. As long as it is able to supply at least 12 volts at 200 milliamps or anywhere up to about 24 volts, then you should be fine. The NetMeter manual specifies a minimum of 18 volts. However, at room temperature and with no accessories attached, a 12-volt power supply is going to be fine for this kind of testing. To start setting up a simple network with the NetMeter, you will require a small router. This can be an inexpensive home-style router that provides Ethernet ports in addition to Wi-Fi. For example, it can be an older router that you have lying around or something you pick up from the bargain bin at your local computer store. It doesn't really matter as long as you have a basic understanding of how to use it. The router is connected to the NetMeter using one of the LAN ports. The NetMeter has RJ45 connectors, it has 2 of them, so be sure to use the one labeled Ethernet on the NetMeter. This is the one on the right-hand side. The other connector labeled ZCAN should be left disconnected. Use the 12 to 24 volt power supply to power the NetMeter. This is connected to the screw terminals on the left-hand side. Don't worry about polarity, as the NetMeter will accept any polarity on these terminals. Finally, you will need a PC or laptop computer with a web browser. Any standards-compliant web browser will work, so if you're using Internet Explorer, you will need at least version 9. Otherwise, Chrome or Firefox are recommended for the PC platform. Once everything is powered up, you should be able to bring up the NetMeter user interface in your web browser by typing in http://netmeter. If your network router is set up properly with DHCP enabled, then the NetMeter should serve up its homepage. Since the NetMeter has not been initialized, you get a warning message that storage is not enabled. Just hit cancel for now, and then you'll be taken to the initialization welcome screen. It indicates that you need to set up the time clock and configure the sensor. It also shows you the default administrator login, which is a username of admin and the password of Z3 Controls. Click the Proceed to Sensor Configuration button. You will need to enter the username and password to continue. The first thing you need to do in the sensor setup screen is to set the real-time clock inside the NetMeter. This is done by clicking the button called Set Sensor Clock to Browser Time. Just make sure that the time clock on your computer is accurate to begin with. You should type in a sensor label and a sensor description. The label should be a small keyword, and this description can be any phrase up to 46 characters. Sensor annotation values are used to color code energy diagrams with a yellow and red threshold, so that low power levels are displayed in green and then transition to yellow or red as the power level increases. You can use a preset value or enter in your own numeric value. At this point, it doesn't really matter what the annotation values are set to because they can always be changed later. The CT setup needs to be properly initialized. There are a number of predefined CT values for the more popular models. If your CT model isn't listed there, then you can use a custom value. Check on the label on your CTs to make sure you have it set up correctly. There are also advanced options that allow you to do things such as set a voltage multiplier in the case where potential transformers are used, to set individual phase voltage multipliers. This can be used to apply a different voltage multiplier to each of the 3 phases. Similarly, there are also current multipliers for each phase. Reverse energy may be enabled in the case where both consumption and generation are possible. In such a case, power will be displayed as negative when there is more power being generated than consumed. For most applications, this should be disabled. DC coupling should only be enabled for DC applications, such as solar applications, where you're measuring the DC side of the solar panel. For normal operation, this should remain disabled. Auto enable storage should be checked so that whenever the NetMeter is power cycled, it will continue to store energy data. Generally, you don't need any of these advanced options, so I'll disable them for this demonstration. I'll go ahead and save this configuration information so that it will be stored into non-volatile memory inside the NetMeter. I'll now click on the Home icon in the upper left-hand corner to return to the home page. If required, click OK to enable data storage to begin. You'll notice that we now have a real-time graph showing no power consumption because there are no CTs or 3-phase voltage connected to the NetMeter.